Outside of the shower room was a hallway that extended off to the left and the right. At the right end was a large iron door. They moved a few steps towards the door when Junpei heard the sound of metal on metal. Oh. They turned around. Seven was doing something to the door of the shower room. What are you doing, Seven? Well, I figure we might want to come back here sometime. So I stuck the broom in there to keep the door from shutting. Hope that doesn't mean anything sinister. Alright, let's go. Oh, I don't know why, that just made me really nervous. With that, he stood up and began walking down the hallway. He brushed past Junpei and kept going. After a moment, the rest of them followed him. Before long, they found themselves at a large iron door. They had only been there for a moment when June spoke up. Jumpy, look! He turned. There, on the right of the hallway, was a piece of paper attached to the wall. Junpei ran over and peeled it off. It's a map of the ship's interior. Don't we already have one of these? It said Oh, it's a different deck map. Okay, that could be useful. From what he could tell, it was a map of the floor they were on. There would be time to look at it later. Junpei folded the map and stuffed it into his pocket. Back at the door, the four of them lined up in front of it. Santa stepped forward. He grabbed hold of the door, and then turned to look back at the rest of them. Ready? I'm gonna open it. They nodded. Santa nodded back and threw the door open. And what do we have behind the metal door? All four of them leapt through. It took only a moment for them to realize where they were. They had been there only a short time ago. What? It was the large hospital room, filled with countless beds. Did they go in that one unmarked door? Man, there are gonna be some mad people over here. Assuming they're still here, Lotus and Clover looked up as they entered. Ace was there as well, although he looked like he had only just woken up. The moment they spotted Junpei, Lotus and Clover headed straight for him. As she neared him, Lotus drew back her hand and slapped him. Yep, open palmed across the face. That's what you deserve, because you are a jerk. How could you do this to us? Her face was furious. She grabbed Junpei by the collar and shook him violently. Clover didn't touch him, but the hate in her eyes was no less potent. It was Seven who stopped them. Knock it off. We've got bigger things to worry about right now. His deep voice echoed across the massive room. Lotus glared at Seven, but let Junpei go after one last vicious shake. What? Go have a look. I stuck the screwdriver in the door. That door over there, this one without a number. So long as the screwdriver's there, it can't shut, so you can get in there. Seven also explained how they might find the shower room, and how he used the broom to ensure the door remained open as well. Then you're saying we can go in— Oh, I would not take Clover in that room. And not tell her why you're not taking Clover in the room. Yeah, that's about the size of it. What's up with this music? I wasn't really paying attention to it, but it's kind of plinky, almost like bleep, 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 bleep. What the heck is in there? You'll know when you see it. Lotus and Clover looked at one another for a moment, then nodded and oh, don't, Clover, don't do it! By then, Ace had made his way to them, moving with the stiff, shuffling steps of someone who was only just awoken from a lengthy slumber. My goodness. I know I said I was sure you'd come back for me. I didn't think it would happen so soon, though. Sorry, we didn't win yet. Ace shook his head weakly. Should I go as well? Seven nodded. Very well. Ace followed Lotus and Clover with a stiff, tired gait. I'm gonna wait for the scream to happen soon. Just waiting, it's gonna happen. The squeal of tortured metal made Junpei's teeth curl. It sounded like the noise a ghost would make. No matter how many times he heard it, he never got used to it. Every time, it put him on edge. See, I'm wondering if that that squealing metal is going to come into play at some point soon. Like, boats don't normally make that sound. I'm wondering if there's something terrible going on in the ship that we're going to find later. It didn't help that there was a girl nearby who looked far more like a ghost than a living human should. It was Clover. She sat on the edge of the bed, her head drooping listlessly onto her chest. Her eyes were blank and stared across the room at nothing. Her breathing was slow and mechanical. Aside from the rise and fall of her chest, she didn't move. Junpei felt as if even a nudge might cause her to shatter into 1,000 pieces. Snake was probably murdered. Chances are, he was killed the same way the ninth man was. Seven lowered his voice, likely in an effort to keep Clover from hearing what he had to say. There were 4 other people in the room with Junpei and Seven. Ace, Santa, June, and Lotus. Seven looked at each one of them in turn, and continued. It's pretty straightforward. Not that hard to figure out how they did it. First, the killers got Snake to authenticate on the red to open door 3. Then they shoved him into it, alone. And waited 9 seconds for the door to shut. I'm saying that is a very possible solution. And, you know, if it did, then we are in some serious trouble, because we've got some people that are a little worse than June on the ship. Just a little bit, because at the very least they had malicious intent to kill. Junpei had an intent to leave them, but I don't know if he necessarily intended to kill them. Once that door shut, it was all over for Snake, but he didn't give up. He probably knew it wouldn't do him any good, but he probably ran into the shower room, looking for the dead. It was a small chance, but it wasn't like he had anything to lose. Unfortunately, it didn't work. The detonator only deactivated if everyone who authenticated when they went in uses the dead. And then 81 seconds after he was shoved in, everywhere. That happened. I see. So, that's what you meant by killers, huh? You need at least 3 people to open one of the numbered doors, including Snake. Wait. If this theory was indeed true, couldn't you use his number to figure out what other possible numbers could be used? I'm not good enough with these digital roots to just think of it right off, but I'm sure you could. And I'm sure they're going to tell us in a minute, because I'm sure they came up with the same conclusion. It wouldn't open for Snake and a single killer. Exactly. That means we're looking at multiple perps here. Junpei crossed his arms and grunted. Well, just in case, I want to make sure. Let's say you're right. When do you think Snake was killed? When we all split up to look for the parts for the Reds, I think. That's probably correct. Right after that was when we noticed he was gone. Then that means none of us have alibis. We're all off searching the rooms we'd been assigned, looking for those parts. Yeah, that means anybody could be a killer. Well, you could add together the numbers and get some possible candidates. Wait a minute. What are you talking about? June seemed shocked. How can you say one of us is a killer so casually? Well, not just one of us. If I'm right, then at least 2 of us are murderers. Oh, that's correct. However unlikely it would be, it could be possible that more than 2 people were doing it. Maybe it could have been 4. Though that seems rather unlikely that 4 people would do that, though not impossible, yet again. Why don't you calm down a bit, Seven? What are you going to gain by being so suspicious? That's what Zero wants. You know. What Zero wants? Exactly. This game was set up by Zero, wasn't it? Any game has a winner and a loser. Whoever makes it through door 9 is a winner, and those who don't are the losers. Zero is trying to make us fight against one another for that victory. Then, you're saying that Zero is trying to split us up by making us fight each other? Yes. That is why we can't let ourselves fall prey to suspicion. We have to trust one another, and form a strong bond of friendship. Otherwise, we'll end up ensnared by Zero's manipulations. Then, does that mean that the person who killed Snake? Yes, almost certainly Zero himself. So, yeah, that could be possible as well. You know, we could have just bypassed the whole system, and Zero could have just come out, grabbed him by the throat, and then, you know, thrown him in the room. Always possible, you know, because Zero, I bet, could just manipulate the rules at whim. If there's anyone we should doubt, it should be Zero. He masterminded this game and kidnapped all of us. Doesn't it seem reasonable that he would have killed Snake as well? Junpei hadn't really considered that. If Zero had killed Snake, then Zero was on the ship with them, which isn't exactly unreasonable. Was Zero still on the ship with them? Well, I mean, you can never be sure, of course, but I would say there's a decent chance he would want to be, because, I mean, if you are a psychotic killer like this, you know, you enjoy... Because I'm assuming he isn't doing this just for the heck of it, you know, to have them make friendships and learn to separate their differences. I'm sure that's not his purpose. I'm sure he's either part of an organization or he's a psychotic killer that likes watching people die in crazy ways. You know, maybe that's his thing. And I would say there's a pretty darn good chance he's on the ship somewhere. Of course. Of course he was. That was obvious. Zero was somewhere on the ship, but Junpei had no idea where. Junpei mumbled to himself, lost in thought. Where could Zero be hiding? Suddenly, everyone went very quiet. The silence was cold and clammy, and Junpei could feel it crawling across his back and around his throat. Again, he heard the ghosting moaning noise. And moments later, a person who looked more ghost than human appeared. It was Clover. She looked at the floor as she spoke, and her voice was a cold monotone. I think Zero is one of us. Oh. Every human body in the room froze. The only sound was the muffled rustling of breath. Once again, completely possible that could happen, but unlikely in my opinion. But still completely possible. Maybe he wants to see the people die with his own eyes. Eyes darted from face to face. One of those faces was the face of their jailer. But who? Junpei said, well, it's possible. Just like I said. Well, that's possible. Huh? Like Clover said, Zero might be one of us. Unlikely, but possible. What are you saying, Jumpy? Didn't you hear what I said? Exactly. I said we shouldn't suspect one another for no reason. No reason? I've got a great reason. And what's that? I bet it's Santa. The bracelets. He held out his left arm. Why are the bombs in our bodies connected to the bracelets? You're all thinking Zero's hiding somewhere, watching us, right? If he's doing that, then he could just detonate the bombs by remote control, if someone did something they weren't supposed to. It would be a lot more precise, and a lot easier. But if that's the case, then why is the bomb set off by the detonator in the bracelet? Huh, you got a point. I'm not done. Try applying the same ideas to the nonary game. All of the puzzles here run by themselves. In other words, Zero doesn't have to be controlling them for the game to move forward. Why's that? Why would Zero bother to do something like that? Junpei let the question hang in the air and looked at the others. It was Santa who answered. So, let's say you and Clover are right. Zero's one of us. If that's the case, then it'd be really hard for him to keep track of all of us, or control anything remotely. That's why all the puzzles are run by themselves. That's what you're getting at, right? Yeah. That doesn't really prove anything, but... Because, I mean, he could just do it and still not be there anyway. Junpei nodded. 7. When we were talking earlier, you said any one of us could be Snake's killer, right? Yeah, something like that. Alright then, I've got a question for you, Ace. Wait, what if it's Lotus? Because Lotus is a jerk. I bet it's Lotus. You said something like, Zero must be the one who killed Snake, right? Yeah, something like that. I can't think of any other explanation. So, what do we get if we combine those two? They fit together pretty well, I think. Something like this. Whoever killed Snake equals Zero equals one of us. Seven and Ace's theories aren't mutually exclusive. They actually complement each other pretty well. At least they do if Zero is one of us. No one spoke. Their faces were grim, but Junpei wasn't sure if they believed him or not. Finally, Lotus spoke up. What were his motives? His motives? Yes. Isn't that pretty important? Why would Zero want to hide as one of us? Oh. Well, that's because, Junpei choked. He hadn't thought of that, and he had to be honest with himself. He had no idea. I don't know. Lotus sighed. Well, so much for making a persuasive argument, Junpei. In other words, you had only circumstantial evidence. I don't really think that's enough to go on, you know? Junpei was painfully aware of their eyes on him, and their disapproval. He tried to find something else, anything else, to look at. Just when he felt he could bear it no longer. Oh, what time is it? They heard a bell begin to ring. It was the clock at the central staircase. 3 in the morning. Oh, they got 3 hours left, man. That means we have 3 hours left, as I said. Then we need to move, now. Seven, Clover, and Junpei. I know how you feel, but you do understand that, right now, it's important we trust one another, don't you? Junpei couldn't bring himself to respond. He swallowed the words he wanted to say, and sighed. Seven and Clover remained similarly silent. Their eyes were looking at something somewhere else, very far away. We must go. We have very little time left. Ace's words put their feet to moving. They all knew where they were going. Their next destination was Mercury. Oh yeah. Didn't we get a card that had a symbol on it? It might have been one of them. They stood in front of the elevators next to the stairs that led to the casino and the kitchen. Between the two elevators was a card reader with the Mercury symbol engraved on it. And yeah, they picked that up. Junpei stood in front of it with the Mercury key card. He found the card while investigating the shower room. He took a deep breath and slid the card through the reader. It made a small beep, and the lights on the reader blinked to life. See, I was thinking they were going to go through the last 2 remaining doors, but I suppose not. Now they were ready. 7 people, including Junpei, climbed into the elevator. Elevator looked sinister. There were only 2 floor buttons they could push. The C and the bottom buttons. The rest were destroyed or did nothing when pushed. Junpei hit the bottom button. Isn't the bottom underwater? The door closed. Slowly, they began to move downward. Sometime later, all 7 of them stepped off the elevator and onto the bottom deck. They stepped off and saw that the hallway to the right ended somewhere between 20 and 25 feet from them. The hallway in front of them was a dead end. But not a regular dead end. Oh. This is a numbered door. Yeah. It's door 2. Immediately they began to discuss who would go through it. Their earlier experiences had shown them that they would meet again, regardless of which numbered doors they took. As a result, there were no arguments this time. Instead, they concerned themselves with who would be sent in to investigate what was beyond the door. The first to volunteer was 7. Junpei followed suit, which meant Lotus was, by default, the 3rd member. Oh no, what about June? Okay, I guess not June then. Alright, we're taking off. No decision there, I guess. Okay, I'm kind of hoping to wrap it up soon, but I need a good stopping point. I'll keep going for a little bit. If I can't find one, I can just make a hard stop anywhere, but I'd really like to make a nice one to end at. Okay. Please be careful. Jesus, you two are acting like you're married, you know that? June blushed. So did Junpei. Perhaps in an attempt to hide his emotions, he quickly turned away to pull the lever on the red. Well, you know, I'd kind of want to ask if everyone's ready to go before you did that, but whatever. The door opened. As they'd come to expect, there appeared to be a short hallway on the other side. Alright, let's go! Lotus was the first through the door. 7 was next, and Junpei brought up the rear. And of course, they're armed again. Fortunately, it took them only moments to find the dead. It had been placed just inside the room, right next to the numbered door. They gathered around it and quickly scanned each of their bracelets. Okay. Not nearly as stressful as most of the times. It stopped. Yeah. Yeah, it stopped. Junpei could feel his heart pounding against the inside of his ribs. Seven and Lotus were breathing hard and fast. It was the third time they had been through the process, but they had yet to grow accustomed to it. I'm sure you wouldn't really grow accustomed to it, knowing that if you didn't find your goal, you would die. Not that Junpei wanted to. He planned to finish the game before he got a chance to let imminent death become commonplace. Junpei looked around again. It was a short hallway, with 5 doors along the walls. There were 3 doors along the left wall, and a single one on the right. And at the end of the hallway, the 5th door was covered by a thick metal plate. Junpei didn't think they'd be able to open it. After taking a look around the room himself, Seven spoke. Alright, let's get started. I think we probably better split up. You two okay with that? Yeah, no problem. Sure thing. Seven nodded to them and stepped into the room closest to him. Lotus looked at the doors for a moment, then headed for the one in the center. I don't know why, but I feel like every time they split up at this point, considering what Junpei has done, how he kind of backstabbed Lotus, I feel like splitting up is a bad idea for Junpei's, livelihood. At last, Junpei was left alone. Well, I guess I better get started too. He looked intently at the remaining 3 doors. Okay. What kind of escape is this? Find a dang door, guy. I guess we have to search all 3 of them, I don't know. What's up with this music? It's a little spooky. Just a bit spooky. Okay. So this is where we're going to end today. Sorry about the extra long episode. I was kind of excited and I kind of wanted to keep playing and I didn't find a very good spot to stop. I'm sure I could have stopped somewhere back there, but I was really excited. So we're going to end here. And I don't normally do this, especially for this series in particular, because I really like to hear you guys' comments. It really helps flesh out the story and makes the whole route more interesting, because I get to learn things that I don't otherwise know or they don't otherwise exactly tell you. But I'm going to make one more episode after this just for the sake of that. My spring break's almost over and I have a rather large paper coming up, and it would be nice to have an extra day to work on that when it comes up. I have a little bit of extra time now and not so much extra time then, so sorry about that. If you were hoping to comment on this video, I will read it, but it will not be affecting the next video. But I'm gonna get started with that. Wow, hour recording session, more or less. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!